Hey friends, previews for the upcoming set Wilds of Eldraine have just begun, and we got some sweet commander cards to talk about. We got all 4 of the brand new commanders that are leading the upcoming pre-constructed decks, and Wizards of the Coast also just previewed a huge amount of the Enchanting Tales cards. These are special showcase reprints of various enchantments, most of which are very playable in Commander, and they come in 2 frames. One is an Eldraine styled showcase frame, and the other is borderless anime frames. So in this video, we're going to check out the brand new Commander cards, and we're going to be looking at all the new Enchanting Tales cards. All these cards are not standard legal, which is why I'm going to be talking them here on the Commander channel. However, if you want to see the main set cards, the cards that are standard legal, then follow the link in the video description to head on over to our main channel where Seth covers all the standard legal cards. Alright, we begin with the first commander for the Dimir Fairy deck, Alila Cunning Conqueror. This is a blue-black commander, 4 mana for a 2/4 fairy warlock with flying that says whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying. And whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, go target creature that player controls. So for those who don't know, fairies are one of my all-time favorite creature types in Commander. I absolutely love small evasive beaters, the tempo style play that fairies often evoke, and I'm also a big fan of draw go style plays, and Alila definitely focuses on that aspect of fairies. She wants you to cast spells on your opponent's turn, so draw go, and rewards you by very efficiently providing fairy rogue creature tokens, which you can then attack on your turn, generate some value, and best of all, goad opposing creatures. So the goad effect here is super awesome. First of all, it's very flavorful. Like, fairies are small, they're mischievous, they play tricks on people, so goading your opponent's bigger creatures is really awesome. And it also shores up a weakness of fairies, which is that they are not very good blockers. They're usually 1/1s, 2/2s with flying. They're very evasive, they're very good for attacking, but they're not very good at blocking. So goading makes sure that your opponents are not attacking you, and in fact, even better, they're forced to attack each other, dealing indirect damage to your opponents, and possibly if you're goading a utility creature like a Oracle of Moldiah, for example, it might just run off into its doom, hit a large blocker, and just die that way too. So it's pseudo removal in a way, but most importantly, it's keeping your life total high and actually lowering your opponent's life totals. So I absolutely love this commander. And the second commander that can lead the deck is Tigwill, Duke of Splendor. This is a 3 mana 2/3 fairy noble with flying, death touch. Other fairies you control get +1/+1, and whenever another fairy you control dies, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So Tigwill is kind of like a fairy aristocrat's commander. It rewards you for when your fairies are dying, and fairies are very good at going wide. There's a lot of really efficient fairy token generators like Bitter Blossom and Una, Queen of the Fae. So generating extra value from those creatures, especially if you start to skull clamp them, the extra ones or whatever, is really nice. And he is a nice deterrent himself. He's flying in death touch, so you can definitely trade up. And he's a nice anthem. He's personally not my preferred leader for the deck, but definitely a really sweet card in the 99. Now, as for the rest of the deck, I have no idea what's going to actually be reprinted in the deck. I'm pretty sure the Bitter Blossom will not be in there, especially because it has an Enchanting Tales reprint in the set. However, I do expect cards like Nimrus, Una's Trickster, Spellstutter Sprite, and Scion of Una all to make it in the precon in the 99. These are all just fairies that have flash and want to be cast on your opponent's turn. And 2 of these cards on the screen are also drawn by my favorite artist, Rebecca Gay, which just makes fairies even better. Like, gosh, I love Spellstutter Sprite, I love Bitter Blossom, 2 of my favorite cards of Magic, both by my favorite artist. Oh my god. I literally have art prints of these cards hanging on my walls, so I'm super stoked for this pre-constructed deck. It's definitely going to be all about fairies and draw-go style of play, tempo-based play, and I'm super excited for it. But we have another pre-constructed deck to talk about. The face commander for this one is Eliveri of the Wild Court. This is going to be a Selesnya deck focusing on the brand new mechanic with Wilds of Eldraine, which is roll tokens. These are enchantment tokens. These are auras that you enchant onto creatures. They're tokens, and most of them provide a minor benefit. Some of them provide very strong benefits, and at least one of them, I believe it's a curse roll, there might be more of them, actually provide something negative to opposing creatures. So this deck is going to be Selesnya Auras, which is not exactly the most original thing that we've ever seen. However, there is an interesting twist here that it is using a brand new mechanic that happened to deal with auras as well. All right, with that spiel out of the way though, it's a 4 mana 4/4 legendary creature human knight, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. And what that means is, if you control another roll on it, put that one into the graveyard. So you can only have one roll at a time, enchanting a creature. And enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So that's a virtuous roll. So you can only have one roll enchanting that creature at a time. And when it has the virtuous roll, it gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So a minimum of 1 because the roll itself is an enchantment. And then whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this commander is straight up just very strong. It draws you cards very efficiently. It produces a lot of enchantments very efficiently, and it pumps up your team very efficiently. So Eldraine wants multiple creatures on the battlefield, and it wants to be attacking with those creatures, and it's going to help that those creatures are going to grow bigger and bigger as Eldraine keeps attacking and keeps putting more enchantment tokens onto the battlefield. So this card is just really sweet. It meshes together card draw and just the beatdown and aura tokens, so a lot of synergy potential here. The other commander that can lead the deck is Gilwain, Casting Director. This is a 3 mana 2/3 legendary creature human bard. Whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Create a royal roll token attached to that creature, create a sorcerer roll token attached to that creature, or create a monster roll token attached to that creature. So the royal token gives the creature +1/+1 in ward 1. The sorcerer roll gives it +1/+1, and whenever this creature attacks, scry 1. And the monster roll is enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. So while Gilwain doesn't draw you cards like the other commander does, it could potentially put a lot more roll tokens onto the battlefield on a given turn. The more creatures you cast, the more aura tokens, these roll tokens, you get to put on your creatures. And that means if you have like a lot of constellation effects or a lot of things that care about just the number of enchantments entering the battlefield, Gilwain can actually be a lot stronger than the other commander, whose name I completely forgot. So this has a higher power ceiling, whereas the other one has a much higher power floor. So I think the other commander is probably stronger overall, just more consistent. However, I feel that this one probably has some combo potential. So if you can figure out any cool combos with Gilwain, let me know in the comment section below. Now, what I think is going to be in the precon in the 99 are going to be cards that just care about auras and care about enchantress effects. So this deck is going to be very similar to another card like Siona, Captain of Pyleas, or Calix, Guided by Fate. These type of commanders care about auras, care about enchanted creatures, and give you various benefits for having auras. And I think Siona is going to show up in the 99. Calix might be too expensive to show up in the 99. We'll see. Fingers crossed. And then other cards like Composer of Spring and Citizen Champion, constellation effects, which don't care about you actually casting your enchantment, just whether or not an enchantment enters the battlefield. Since all these rolls are auras, aura tokens, they're not cast, but they do enter the battlefield. See, they are going to trigger constellation effects on Calix, Composer of Spring, and Citizen Champion, and much more than that as well, too. So this is just going to be Selesnya Enchantress. It's not a very original concept. We've actually just seen an Abzan Enchantress deck show up in Commander Masters like a month ago. And we've seen dozens of Enchantress pre-constructed decks show up throughout the years. It's kind of been done to death, in my opinion. But at least this one has a little bit of a twist. It has roll tokens. It's a new set mechanic. And they always like taking a set mechanic and turning it into a precon, fleshing it out a little bit more for people who are big enjoyers of the new set mechanic. But it doesn't really translate into enough cards in 99 cards singleton. So the pre-constructed deck injects more brand new cards to flesh out the archetype. But this archetype in the end is just going to be Selesnya Enchantress, so yay! Alright, so those are the 4 face commanders that we're going to be expecting to lead the pre-constructed decks. And then we have these special showcase frame cards, which are called Enchanting Tales. These cards are not standard legal, and most of them are aimed at commander players, surprise, surprise. And there are 2 different versions of all these Enchanting Tales. There's the regular version, which is themed like a fairy tale, and then there's the borderless anime version for each of these cards. However, we haven't seen all of them yet. And I believe they also show up in all your boosters, both the draft boosters and set boosters and collector boosters. So we have some really major reprints. We have Doubling Season, which is a commander staple, Rhystic Study, which is another commander staple, Greater Oromancy, which is very fitting because it's an enchantress set and all these cards are enchantments, so you gotta protect them. Aggravated Assault, another fantastic staple in commander decks, is a combo finisher as well. Smothering Tithe, one of the best white cards of all time, and one of the best ramp cards of all time in the format. Necropotence, one of the most busted card draw spells in the format. Polluted Bonds, an old school favorite. Blood Moon, a salty card, but a very effective card in Commander. Sneak Attack, everybody loves Sneak Attack. Kindred Discovery, great for any creature type focused deck in blue. Defense of the Heart, absolutely fantastic in basically any green deck, especially if you can get 2-card combos off it, like Mike and Trike. Bitter Blossom, which is going to be a great upgrade for if you're getting the Fairy Precon deck. I really doubt it's also going to be printed in the 99 there, so it's great to see it reprinted nonetheless. And then we have a couple cards that don't have the anime version. We've got Prismatic Omen, Curiosity. This is Copy Enchantment, Unnatural Growth, and then the final 3 are Fiery Emancipation, Land Tax, and Spreading Seas. So those are a lot of sweet new commander cards to get excited about, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to see all the previews that came out today, head on over to the main channel. I'll have a link to it in the video description. And then be sure to like and subscribe over here to make sure you don't miss out when I cover more preview cards as they're coming out. As you can tell, I'm super stoked about this set. I absolutely love Eldraine as a setting, and I am very hyped for that fairy deck in particular. That's all I got for now, so until next time, friends, see ya!